Hi, I'm Jessica G, and this is the Just in Time podcast. If you're struggling today, I want you to know this podcast is here for you, but it's not a substitute for professional help. If you're in a crisis or feel unsafe, please call or text 988 or dial 911 for immediate support. There are people out there who will listen and can help. On this show, I'll be sharing personal experiences, mindset shifts, talking with key experts, and sharing real tools that help me go from barely surviving to thriving. This is not about quick fixes or one-size-fits-all advice. It's raw, it's honest, it's what worked for me and what I believe can help others too. Let's walk together from darkness to hope. All right, everybody, welcome back to Just in Time to Save a Life. Today's episode is about grit, but not the cute, curated version, not the hustle quotes, and not the just stay positive energy. This is about true strength and real resilience. I met today's guest years ago in Arizona, and from the beginning, I felt her strength. Not loud strength, but grounded strength. And the kind that comes from surviving things that most people never see. Today, I'm honored to introduce you to Brescia Dover. She is a cancer survivor. She cares deeply about mental health, and she is a business owner. Welcome to the show, Brescia.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, and just thank you for your time and having me.
Absolutely. So Brescia has a very unique story, and we're going to tap into a couple of different aspects. But I would love for you to share with our guests, when did you first get diagnosed with cancer? How old were you? What did that look like? And we'll start from there.
Yeah. So I was diagnosed with cancer in my early 20s. I was studying creative media and film at Northern Arizona University at the time. And I just had a routine physical with my doctor, and she found some swelling on the left side of my neck. And we ended up doing just some routine tests, and then it advanced from there. And they found an early stage of Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer, and that's really where my cancer journey began. But it was leading up to that. I had no family history of cancer. I was a very healthy, active girl, and it was a very weird thing to be diagnosed with in your 20s. But that's when I found out I had cancer, and I was kind of taking a break from college and having to put a pause to get treatment and go from there.
What were your first thoughts like when you got diagnosed with that? Like where did your head go? Like where were you at mentally?
I think when you sit in a room with a doctor who tells you have cancer, you kind of go to the worst case scenario. And so the first thoughts I had were, have I done everything I wanted to do with my life? And the answer was no. I just knew. I was like, I don't know what this cancer looks like, but I need to figure out how to get through it and come out on the other side, because there's still so much more I want to do with my life. And so I think it's just initially a really earth-shaking, shattering situation where you never expect to hear those words from a doctor, especially in your 20s.
What did they tell you, like your survival rate, or what stage was it at? Like what were you looking at?
It was a earlier stage of Hodgkin's lymphoma. So like around 1 to 2 is what they would call it. So we got lucky in that sense. But the survival rate for Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer is pretty high with modern medicine. But they always say, there's a chance that the treatment doesn't work, and we have to try other aggressive forms of treatment. So luckily the standard chemotherapy approach worked, and the type of cancer I had is a blood cancer. So that falls in the same family as leukemia. So it was a very, very well-known treatment plan. I had a great oncologist, great team of doctors, and we were able to cure it, and I was able to beat it.
That's awesome. How long did it take you for treatment from diagnosis to curing?
Yeah, so the treatment was it was 2 weeks in between chemotherapy. So I would have an aggressive round of chemo, and then I'd have a break, and then we'd hit it again. And I had 6 rounds of chemotherapy total. And before I even started chemo, the team moved quick. Everyone's wheels were turning about, we need to get the PET scan. We need to figure out what stage she is, come up with the protocol, the standard form of treatment we want to give her, and then just keep moving from there. And so it was really quick. Once they knew I had cancer, I found a good team, and they were based out of the Mayo Clinic in Arizona. So I feel really fortunate to have had a really good care team. And then the treatment, it was the most physically exhausted time of my life. I've never been so drained. And that makes sense because the drugs they put in your body they'll have that effect on you. So yeah, it was a strong round of chemo, 2 weeks off, and then tackling it again and continuing on for 6 rounds, and then they retest you.
How long did that? Was that a year, 2 years?
It was less than a year. So it was pretty much a full semester of my college. I was out, and then the following semester I was able to return. So I look at it as it was a full semester of college, basically.
Did you feel like giving up or have really dark moments during those times?
Yeah, I think my mindset with cancer, I almost was prepared for because of the mental health challenges I've had in my life. I have had, and I know we'll talk about this, but I've had severe mental health challenges in my lifetime before having cancer. And so because of that, I kind of came into this cancer treatment with the mindset that if I can get through and learn how to navigate life with mental illness, I can also get through a physical illness like this.
And let's go ahead and dive into that. I know that a while back you put something out there that, you had been diagnosed with bipolar. I know now that it's more of a misdiagnosis, but I just found such strength in you as a person. I remember you telling me that, and I was so blown away by your honesty and willingness to talk about that. There's such a stigma to bipolar disorder, mental health in general. And I remember growing up being labeled like that, like it was a bad thing, and going to the doctors and trying to find it. I think it's something that a lot of people can feel a lot of shame around. And when you openly talked about it, I was like, whoa, give me my popcorn bowl and my Coke. I need to listen to this girl. Hold on.
Yeah.
I was just wow, she's got so much courage to put herself out there. That's a very vulnerable place. And to me, I was like, that you're the first person that I've ever known that really came out and had to express that. So I would love to know, when you were diagnosed / misdiagnosed, how you adopted that, just talking about how you were okay, if this is my diagnosis, where were you at mentally, and where did that strength come from to be able to share that with others?
Yeah, well, thanks for saying all that. I think it comes from being in a household where I feel very fortunate to have grown up with parents who they didn't necessarily have mental illness in their world at the time, but I'm their oldest daughter and I have 2 younger brothers, and I was the first in my family to really struggle with mental illness. And so I watched as they really lovingly demonstrated that it doesn't matter. If you have a mental illness, you are not your mental illness. You have this diagnosis, but you're so much more than that. And we talked about it as a family. We were incredibly open about it. My parents did a beautiful job at helping me get the support I needed, whether it was a psychiatrist, a therapist. And when I was So when I was 11 years old, I had a severe eating disorder. I had anorexia, and that was the first time my family had ever experienced real mental illness. And no one, I mean, even I didn't know what we were dealing with. I just had developed an eating disorder at the time, which had stemmed from the need to control something in my world. And so after I worked through that, that was a long road, but ultimately I lived a normal life after kind of going through different treatment and getting into equine therapy. So I loved horses, and that's what saved me from anorexia. And I haven't struggled with that since I found my love for horses. So fast forward to when I was around 16, 17 years old, I was in high school, and I was starting to have these symptoms that were characteristic of bipolar. And they were things like hyperactive sex drive, spending too much money, talking really fast, not getting enough sleep. And my parents were like, okay, what is going on? And when you're in the thick of a mental illness, the person that's struggling really can't see it because it's just all that they know about the chemical imbalance in their brain. It's their reality. So I remember my parents kind of sitting me down and saying, we're worried about you, Brescia. We want to take you to, see a psychiatrist and see what's going on. And we didn't even get to that point because it got a little bit out of control where I started going into mania. So I felt paranoid. I thought I was like communicating with people that weren't there, and all these scary things. They ended up taking me to the emergency room, and I spent the night there when I was a senior in high school. And they basically said, she has probably bipolar. We need to take her to a psychiatric unit. And so I was still an adolescent at the time. So I went to a children's psychiatric unit, and they brought me down from psychosis with a strong medication, and then ended up being discharged and kind of got back to baseline. But then it happened all over again with a stronger psychosis this time, which is actually around the time I graduated from high school. So I spent 30 days. When I graduated from high school, I turned 18, and I was old enough to go to a treatment center in Tucson, Arizona, and very fortunate to be able to go there because it's really hard to get good mental health treatment in America, unfortunately. And so this facility was very well known, and I spent 30 days learning how to live with my new diagnosis of bipolar. And we talked about how it maybe wasn't the most accurate diagnosis, but at the time, it's all they knew how to characterize this as, because I never hit the lows, I just hit the highs. And so the only thing they knew was, okay, this is like a very non-typical case of bipolar disorder. So we're going to label it that, and we're going to treat it like that. And so that's where everything changed for me. And I learned how to live a happy and successful life being diagnosed with this type of mental illness.
When you say that you never hit the lows, did that mean like you never had like suicidal thoughts or just got really depressed? What can you kind of explain that?
Yeah, so like the classic bipolar is described as hitting the mania or psychosis highs and then dipping down to the depressive, darker lows. And that doesn't necessarily mean suicidal ideation or thoughts. That just means you're swinging. And so that's how like classic bipolar looks. But for my case, it was just hitting highs, not dropping to that depression, dark side. But so and that was hard enough. So I can't imagine going up and down. I know like people who have bipolar, and a very real challenge because it's not easy to navigate.
Yeah. I know several hairstylists in the community. Unfortunately, one person in particular that lost his life or took his life, but he struggled with bipolar, and he definitely, I would see his highs at work, and you could tell when he was in his lows, but I knew that like trying to find the right medication and all of that is a huge struggle for bipolar people. So kind of explain to us, so that was your diagnosis, and then how did you work through that? How did you manage that diagnosis and kind of transition as you got out of the clinic, like into, normal life? What did that adjustment phase look like for you?
Yeah, so they found a really great medication for me that seemed to just neutralize and keep me at my baseline. And I took that for several years after being discharged from this facility. And I think medication has a stigma in itself. And I think medication is an incredible tool that we have because like mental illness is literally just defined as a chemical imbalance in your brain. And just like any other kind of illness, like my cancer or any other physical illness, sometimes you need medication to treat it. So for me, taking medication was really important to continuing out in the real world. But other things I learned at that treatment facility were how to prioritize my mental health, things like meditation, remaining active, eating a balanced diet, things like getting 8 hours of sleep. And every body is a little different, but I know that sleep is the most important thing for a brain like mine. And it really, I would hope most people prioritize sleep above like so many things in life, because if we don't have adequate sleep at night, the next day our brains just can't be as sharp as they're designed to be. So all the, yeah, it's super important. But all those things were like little tools I had in my toolkit to rely on when or if I ever were to struggle again. And since leaving that facility when I was 18 years old, I haven't hit a manic or psychotic episode since. So that's why today, like being diagnosed with bipolar doesn't resonate too much, because I'm not on medication anymore. I still see my psychiatrist once a year. We check in. But what I do every single day is I live a life where to some it may be extreme, but to me, it just is what makes sense. I do everything I can to protect my mental well-being. I don't drink or smoke, and that's seriously just for my brain. Like, I don't have a huge desire to do either of those things because I care about my brain, and I'm like scared to ever have to go through those things again. So I have so many great tools that I can rely on when I feel like I might be struggling, or like more commonly for me today is anxiety or OCD. And so I have medication I can take as needed for that. But the things that really make all the difference for me in my world is just like those mental health tools like exercise, balanced diet, sleep, meditation. Those things really help my brain, and I notice a huge difference when I do those things daily.
Well, I love that you shared that with all of our listeners, because I know, yes, medication does have a big stigma to it. And I remember like after, I had lost my dad and brother, I seriously needed help. I went to a behavioral center and because I had lost all hope. And because of the way that I grew up, my family just like labeled me as crazy, or, told me to go get on my meds, or did you take your meds today? And it was like a really hurtful kind of thing. But what I realized was like I had to kind of push them aside and do what was right for me. And so I also was on medication for about a year or two until I also learned a lot of those things. And I learned it through neuroplasticity, like things that you're talking about, like getting good sleep, resting, meditation. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. And that's why, we ended up ultimately opening up the nonprofit Just in Time to Save a Life, was because I found my way out and I wanted to share that with everybody else. Not that harnessing neuroplasticity to fight suicide is the only way out, but just having that in combination. Because it's like what may work for one person might not work for the other. And it sounds like you found really what worked for you and you went through all the steps, but you did it so beautifully. And the way that you express that and share that with the world, I mean, that is just true strength. Did anybody ever make fun of you for that, or like putting yourself out there, or were they like mean to you? Because like that would have been my biggest fear, is you shared something so vulnerable and so personal that, I mean, obviously it impacted me because I remembered it like that, in my head. I remember exactly where we were on the yoga mat when you were telling me the story and talking a little about your journey. Like I remember it like a heartbeat, and I was like, wow. And I just thought that was so cool, because that creates so much more room for other people to say, oh, it's okay. Like, okay, maybe I'm diagnosed as this, maybe I'm diagnosed as that, but it's okay, because what you just said, I'm more than my diagnosis. But I would love for you to just share that, because I think there's probably other people that would, love to be like you and look up to you, and also maybe help share their journey. So what were the hardships with that? Like, or fears that you had?
Yeah, I remember too when you told me about your dad and brother, and I think it's also incredible what you're doing, and it's brave of you to be able to talk about that as well. So I'm really proud of you for that. But I don't know why must have just been born this way, but I do not let what other people think or their opinions of me dictate what I do in life. Like I try to be a very respectful person and a good person, and in certain environments, it's important to care and present yourself a certain way. But outside of those moments, like what I do with my life is like very much not dictated by what other people think or what they may think of me. And so sharing my story, for whatever reason, was so easy for me to do. And it could be because of the household environment I grew up in and just our honesty as a family. But like I never was ashamed to talk about it. And there could have been like people from high school could have been like, where's Brescia? Like she was gone for like a week. That's when I went to the psychiatric unit. Like what? And there could have been people thinking that, but I kind of just always like beat it to my own drum. I like never dressed like the girls in school. Like I always just, I had like a different vibe, and it was also hard to relate to people at that time. And that's why a lot of my friends are like 20 years older than me, which is okay, but I still have friends my age, but it is hard to fully relate to in any scenario to people when we all have different life stories. But what I have found is that by sharing my story and being vulnerable and authentic and talking about the difficult conversations, I've been able to connect with people on such a deeper level, and surface level conversations like can only go so far. And I mean, at the end of the day, those are the most draining conversations when you're talking about the weather. Like,
Yeah.
we really don't. There's so much more to talk about in life than what's going on with the weather.
Yeah.
And so like my goal with everything I do, with my personal brand, with my life's purpose and mission, is tied to raising awareness around mental health and being vulnerable and telling my story in a way I know how, so that it can help others feel less alone.
And now you're telling other people's stories through your new business, Checkered Jaguar, which I love. I love the branding. It's so fun. And I mean, you helped tell my story. So for those of you that don't know, Brescia and her mother flew out to Arkansas when I first opened the hair lab. I had moved from California to Arkansas. And I just loved them so much. I felt comfortable around them. I felt like they were genuine, they were authentic. And I just wanted them to be there. And they did some like drone stuff and team shots, a couple like commercials and things like that. And, it was a big deal for me to make that jump and open up my own salon. And, we just celebrated 5 years, and I still go back and I look at that video and I'm just like, I don't know, I'm just so happy and proud that I had somebody like you to help kind of, tell that story and take those photos and do that videography. You're so good at it. But now you get to tell, other people's stories. And I knew you were starting to run social media pages, and now you're doing the whole story from from beginning to end through the art of photography and videography.
Yeah, well, that was a great trip when we got to come out and document that. And that's it started even before then for me. I always had a camera in my hand. And when I went off to college, my mom decided she wanted to do photography. And so after I graduated, we joined forces, and I always loved telling people's stories. As passionate as I am about telling my own story, I'm equally, if not even slightly more passionate about telling other people's stories, because there's a lot of people that do videography. There's a lot of photographers, but a lot of videographers and photographers do it, because it's a creative outlet or a great way to make some money. But behind everything I do is my deep love for storytelling. And I'm so lucky to be able to do this for work. And I've built my business and my marketing agency around this love for storytelling. And when I meet with potential clients, I tell them, there's a lot of people who do what I do, but the differentiating point here is that when you work with me, I treat your brand or business like it were my very own. And I want to extract the stories that your audience needs to hear, and we're going to tell them. And so I'm fortunate to be able to do everything with them, the videography, photography, social media management, and tie it all together in one great package. But that's the response I get from people is that that's your talent, is telling people's stories. And so I feel really, really lucky to be able to do it for a career.
And I feel like you capture the heart of the person too. I remember watching something about you, working with blue collar people. You said one of your favorite projects was working with the plumber. It's the plumber has no idea how to market themselves or do a social media, but if they want to grow or scale their business and, advertise that and let others know exactly what they do or how they do it, you go in there and you get to capture that. And I think that's really, really cool. Being able to capture that person's story, why they're doing it, because I think that's truly especially with all this AI and all this stuff coming out, is that I think authenticity is going to become, first of all, it's already very rare, but it's going to become more and more and more rare. And to stay, really high value, those are the things that people are going to say, wow, that's an authentic person. I want to hire that person. Their heart's in it, just like your heart's in your business, and you're able to help other businesses do that. And so it's really about the heart of who you are. And that's why I wanted to invite you on the show, because I was I just love her. And I've been following you now for a while. We worked together and I've been following you for a while. And your mom is absolutely amazing. I still have the perfume that she wore.
Oh, that's amazing.
What is it? Delilah, or it's in the pink bottle.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. I can't remember the name, but it's a good one.
I think of her because I remember it's Louis the 14th, something. But she was it's so worth it. We were in Arizona. We had just had lunch or something.
I love that.
I'm finally almost out of it, but the bottle, she was right. It lasted a long time. But yeah, and I love the relationship that you guys have and your work ethic and how you work and flow together. I just think it's so beautiful. And for our listeners out there, I just have to talk about how important it is to have that support system, because it's already tough enough when you go through cancer or go through mental health battles, and then you don't have the family support. I did not at all. And I think that's why it was so shocking to me be like, oh my gosh, she shared that. You know what I mean? For a lot of us that didn't have that support. And it's like, it just goes to show how truly important that is, to be loving and to be kind to one another and to help break that stigma, you know? So it's like, if you have a family member, a sister, a mom, a dad, you know, somebody that's struggling with mental illness, to remain kind, because you probably, even though like your family didn't understand exactly what you were going through, because like you said, they didn't struggle with that before, but they were there for you, you know? And I think that can just really close the gap for people and help them heal and get on track just like you did. And, you know, you're somebody that's like been through, you know, cancer and mental health challenges. And now today you're sitting here and you're thriving. And as an example to other people, you know, that are maybe going down that same road with you. What would you say to listeners that are maybe going through something similar? Maybe they're battling cancer or a mental health illness, and they don't have good family support. What would you say to those people? What would be your advice?
I think, you know, if you don't have family support and maybe you have a strong friend group, I think even if it's scary to open up to people that are in your circle, it's important you do, and their response matters. Like if they aren't able to sit in that space with you and really empathize and feel that pain with you and support you in the way they can, then they're probably not a real friend. So outside of friendship or family relationships, if you don't have that support, there are several like free support groups available, and you can find those like by doing a Google search, and that's a good resource to have. But I mean, in the modern world we live in, like the more we can get off of our screens and connect with people in the real world who are going through what we've gone through, and maybe that is like, if you can't find a free support group, maybe that's seeing a therapist and talking to someone who can just say, look, you're not alone. There's many people that deal with this. But hearing your story with not having the support from family, I definitely feel for you, because I guess it puts in perspective how lucky I feel to have them. But I mean, how did you find support outside of them?
Well, I grew up thinking there was really truly something wrong with me. Like in the aspect of like feeling so much shame, right? Like I was a bad kid, or maybe I'm bipolar, or I'm crazy, or I'm too much drama, or I'm this. And really I was breaking a generational curse. I was breaking, you know, standing up to abuse, but didn't really understand I was being abused, you know, emotionally, or even physically. And I really struggled deeply, so many dark nights. And I think that's where my suicide ideation started at 13, and struggled with that for like 20 years. There were certain people, I think, throughout, you know, my journey that I was able to lean on, you know, whether it was like one of my friend's moms or like a teacher at school, just getting like actually my mom's hairstylist. She really helped me, because she actually, she was very intelligent, and had some type of degree in psychology, and kind of could see through the situation. And honestly, one of my counselors, now that you say that, there was a counselor along the way so this is kind of crazy. So, my mom put me in counseling because I had anger issues, and, basically wanted to try to get me diagnosed with something, bipolar, this and that. But it really came from the abuse that was happening in the family. You know, they were normal. My reactions were normal responses to abuse, but then I was labeled as crazy because of those responses. So I remember there was a psychiatrist that I went to, and it's so crazy. He told me to read a book, and I was like maybe 13, 14. It was like this thick, and it was called Malignant Self-Love, and it was about a narcissist. And now you're 13 years old, you're going to a counselor, Your counselor has seen the family. The counselor cannot say, hey, your mom's a narcissist, or hey, your mother is dealing with a mental illness and it's affecting you. Like, they can't say that, And he found, in a roundabout way, he helped me kind of come to my own conclusion, and not till like later in life, because these things in the brain are so hard to understand sometimes. But I do remember, trying to control what I could control. It was just very difficult. I think it wasn't until I was out of that environment that I was really able to, I spent my early 20s in therapy. So I really think it was mainly therapy that helped me. And then just my art and passion, the creative side of like doing hair and all that. And then the other thing was, this is a loaded question. I didn't know I was going to have all this to say.
Yeah, I love it.
So I did 2 years of acting classes, and it was Stanford Meisner. It was in Santa Monica, the John Ruskin School of Acting. And this is why I was going to cosmetology school, 18 or 19. And I was going to Cosmo in Riverside, and Santa Monica is where the acting school was. And it was like on a Monday and a Wednesday. And, traffic from, Riverside to LA was insane, but I was so committed to it. Not so much because like I thought I wanted to be an actress, but because they said you can't be more authentic on stage or in front of the camera than you are in real life. And I just felt like a shell of a person through all the trauma. Like, I would flinch, I was scared to go in public. Like, I knew that my spirit had been crushed and shoved down so deeply. And through acting courses, I was able to express a lot of that. But it was so funny. It was like they wanted to put me in the girl next door roles, but I was more like, give me a gun and play the Angelina Jolie roles. Like, I was more of the dark side in me. But I was able to learn about myself and who I am and how you see the world as a actor, right? Because you have to play all these different parts. It helped me see who I really was. And I was like, wow, I just have a bunch of darkness and pain and all this. And I was able to like play those little dark roles and get that out. But then ultimately I decided that I wasn't going to go into acting because I wasn't mentally tough enough or mentally strong enough being in front of the camera. I had self-image issues. But that is one thing that kind of helped me. And I think just along the way, I just would lean on some people, and I would get a piece of information, or I would read a book, or figure out like, why am I this way? And just honestly, just not giving up, and just keep trying. But therapy was one of the biggest things, really. I think therapy, Dispenza, and that acting class, I don't know, it gave me some kind of hope.
Yeah, I love that. I'm so glad you found those things to help you get through that.
Yeah. I didn't even realize, I don't think I've ever talked about that on this show or anything. But because it's wild, you think you don't sign up for acting classes, but it was almost kind of like therapy, but it's not, but it was. But it was like, it was just a way to express and in a safe, healthy environment. And that's kind of what the Ruskin Theater did,
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I think that's probably why I was so drawn to you, because I was like, she's been there so much. She's sharing all this. She's so authentic. But yeah, I love that.
Thanks. Yeah. Authenticity, vulnerability, it connects us.
Yeah. And that awareness too, as we get older, it's really about like tapping into that like awareness and how we occur to people and things like that.
Totally.
I've always been on that journey of like enlightenment and like self-discovery. Because I just wanted to understand, like, why are we here? Why am I here? What is the purpose? Like, I need to be tied to something bigger and greater than just this average everyday life.
Totally. I love that. I love going down that rabbit hole and thinking of like connecting the dots backwards too.
Yeah. Are you still cold plunging?
Yes, I didn't mention that, but I do that every day.
Woo,
I do
every day.
Yeah,
Woo.
that is part of my mental health care.
I have a cold plunge at my house, but I don't do it every day.
Oh, that's good though.
Right now, while
that
I'm
you
pregnant,
have
though,
it.
when I get home from work, I do put my feet in. But as soon as you hit your head, it's like resets your nervous system. It's so good, but it's so painful. You and your mom did one of those ice baths together one time, and it's hard.
Yeah, it is. It is. But if you can start your day, I mean, not through pregnancy, but when you're not pregnant, if you can start your day with a cold plunge or ice bath, it's like the hardest way you could start your day. So if you can start your day with that, everything else just feels like not as hard throughout the rest of the day. Like if you can start your day with that, you can handle what the day brings you.
I feel like it's a great tool, and it gives you energy, and you feel like revived after. What temperature and how long are you? Where are you at right now with that?
Yeah. So I set it around 48 or 50 degrees, and women are supposed to have it a little warmer higher than men. But I do it for 3 minutes and 48 seconds, and I'll just put on my favorite song at the time. And I'll
keep your feet in?
Keep your feet in? I just...
Girl, I gotta keep my hands and my feet out. I just can't. I don't know what it is, but I'm like, they just cramp.
I get it. Those are the hardest parts, but I've started to crave it. Like it's like a healthy drug to me.
Yeah.
Which is weird, but it works. It's like, because you feel that dopamine hit when you get out, you're like, whoa, I feel really good.
Well, we had a cold plunge challenge for Just in Time, and it was actually our first event. It was really awesome. We got all kinds of different resources. There's like neurofeedback, institutional centers. I mean, the community just really got together. And there's a video actually on our website, justintimetosavealife.org. And I was trying to get it to go viral, like the ice bucket challenge, because I wanted to help break the stigma. And we use it as a metaphor. It's like, if you can do hard things, and if you can do an ice plunge, you can like overcome difficult emotions and not make permanent decisions on temporary feelings. You can breathe through the hard. And so we're using that and just kind of like paralleling that to mental toughness as well. And there was so many people. We had the Marine Corps out there. It was awesome. Like there was a lot of high school girls out there, and it was such a beautiful event. So eventually, maybe 2028, we'll do another cold plunge event. But it was such a beautiful event, and
so cool.
I remember there was a guy that came up to me after the event. I'll never forget this, because with this kind of work that we do, you don't always like know what kind of impact you're having. So if you guys would like to drop in the comments, or if this episode touched you, please share that. I would love to try to start creating momentum and opening up a space for people to like kind of share their wins and talk about if this episode resonated with them. But he came up to me and he said that he was struggling with suicide, and he got connected, and he actually checked himself into the behavioral health center that day. And I don't know this person, and it was just nice that, he came up and like said that. So it's like the little things that we do matter, and we don't know how we're impacting others, but and he did the cold plunge too.
Wow. Good for him.
Yeah.
That's
so
amazing.
Beautiful. Yeah. The video is really, really beautiful.
I need to watch that.
Yeah. I think you'll love it. Well, thank you for being honest, being on the show, and being brave enough to share what most people hide. Your story is not just about survival. It's about a transformation, and about becoming someone stronger, deeper, and more intentional because of what you walk through. And now you're an example to others. Where can our listeners find you? Like, say they want to work with your business, or, tap into your Instagram. Do you want to go ahead and let them know where they can find you?
Yeah. If you want to work with me, my website is just checkeredjaguar.com. And I have an inquiry form there, and that's a really great way to get connected with me. But if you're interested in following along with my story on social media, my Instagram and like TikTok is where I'm most active, and my YouTube page. But it's just my name, Brescia Dover, which I'm sure will be spelled in the description or
Yes.
somewhere. But it is tricky to spell, but you can find me pretty easily online just by searching my name.
Awesome. And for all of our listeners, if this episode resonated with you, please like and subscribe. Share with a friend that you know is going through a mental health battle, and if you guys like to find more information or donate or support, you can always go to justintime-to-save-a-life.org, and there's a donate button to kind of like keep the show moving along. One of our goals is to create a program that harnesses neuroplasticity to fight suicide that's free and available for people. 2027, we're really going to start putting that into motion and doing some more fundraising after I have this baby. But that is one of our ultimate goals. And if you have a story and you want to come on the show, please reach out to us. Something that you want to share, or if you're in neuroscience, we are also looking for somebody with that type of education that can help us build this program. So please reach out. And I think that's it. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Brescia.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. If you're struggling, remember, how you think is how you feel. If your feelings feel heavy, start by shifting the thought. You're not stuck. Your brain can change. So can your story. I'm Jessica G. This is the Just in Time podcast, and I'll see you next time. Until then, keep going, never give up, and remember, the world is better with you in it, whether you believe it or not. To help reach others, please share this with your friends, family, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and donate.